The main issues on the ground really have to do with the ensuing propaganda narrative that you're seeing that is infiltrated into what I consider to be agents of soft power, that is academia and journalism, the way people teach and talk about the issues. There's been a rise of basically individuals teaching their own propaganda rather than facts on the ground. I find the Middle East, and I know the Middle East as a Middle East historian, to be a rich region theologically, politically, and culturally, and it has been boiled down into a binary issue of where the Israelis can do no right and the Palestinians can do no wrong. And that is ahistorical, it's apolitical, and it's afactual. And I think that there needs to be a great deal of discussion about the actual issues on the ground, and when it comes to dealing with facts rather than propaganda. And so I'll start there as a way that we need to actually understand the goals and objectives of Islamist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran's proxies, understanding how 10/7 began, understanding the entire history of the Middle East, and in particular, what Israel has been fighting for the past 75 years, and how we got here. And I think that knowledge of history, none of this came in a vacuum. We need to understand the origins and the objectives of the war on terror, Israel's war on terror, which I would argue is synonymous to Europe's war on terror, America's war on terror, and the kind of the nefarious forces that are behind this, that are looking to basically resurrect a traditional Muslim caliphate under an Islamist doctrine that is jihadist, Islamist, and basically sees no room for non-believers, that is Judeo-Christianity. That needs to be understood at large. Here we are 23 years post 9/11 within the American context, and we're fighting exactly those same forces today in a modern day Holocaust that Israel has experienced on 10/7 and is experiencing in a point in time where Israel actually exists. The difference is that, during the days of the Holocaust, there wasn't a state of Israel. Here you are when there is a state in existence, and you're still able to experience a modern day Holocaust with similar eliminationist forces that are out to destroy Jews and Christians worldwide.
What's the atmosphere in American universities towards this?
What you've seen since 10/7 began, which is really, I think, to be very telling, and in contrast to 9/11, for example, you see an outpouring of support and zeal for Hamas and Hezbollah. What you saw during the encampments, and you see the forces, the perception within those who are purporting these views see Israel as a white settler colonial project. And if that is the narrative that they put out there, then 10/7 came off and was interpreted as decolonialism, i.e. justified by their actions. There has been no understanding about the entire edict and the entire charter of Hamas and their goals, but there is an understanding within America today, and what is so triggering in American academia is what is known as diversity, equity, and inclusion, and there is a fallacious narrative of where the entire framework in which these topics are being taught has been, is flipped on its head. The fact that Israel is sold as a Zionist racist country, a la invoking the old 1975 UN resolution that Zionism is a form of racism, even though it was repealed back in 1991, it is still today believed to be actually factually true. And so Jews are seen to be as racist, as colonialists, and so the academy has adopted that. The academic circles in America, which I would argue are very similar to European circles as well, tend to go left and hard left. And so the ratio between conservative values and liberal values on American campuses leans left. To that end, Israel is seen as a conservative right-wing issue, and this kind of politicization of Israel and partisanship when it comes to Israel has dictated the fact that today faculty and students need to make a choice on American college campuses that if they want to be a rank and file member of the academy, they have to rid themselves of their Zionism. And that process of ridding oneself of one's Zionism is what you're seeing predominantly happening on a large swatch, I would say in general, on every American college campus. That is to say, in practical terms, that you cannot be anything else if you are a Zionist. You cannot be a progressive, you cannot be pro-women's rights, you cannot be pro-gay rights. If you choose to be a Zionist, then you are immediately a racist, and you have to pick and choose between identifying what I would consider to be a basic tenet of Jewish identity to say that I want to support an X and Y, Z issue. And that's the choice that's been happening on these campuses. Those who are speaking out are, of course, being ostracized.
Can I just move on to the general state of US, European, Israel relations post 10/7? What's going to happen there?
I think that you did see at the beginning of the war at 10/7, you saw outpouring of support coming out of the White House as far as support from the Biden administration. Here we are 11 plus months into the war itself, and it's basically gone into a debate about electoral politics. The Democratic Party, which is driven a great deal by the progressive flank of the party, tends to be anti-Israel, and there's the anti-Semitic voices within those areas, and so I think we need to bring it back to basics. Issues like anti-Semitism and support for Israel have historically been bipartisan issues. And I think that the fact that Israel has now transformed itself into a partisan issue is a problem. This goes back to the Obama years. I mean, the crux of U.S.-Israel relations has been rooted in what is considered to be as the no daylight policy. That is to say that allies have differences, they can agree to disagree on issues, but airing of the dirty laundry via social media by sitting presidents and others have extremely worsened the situation. And I think that now that you're seeing, especially after 10/7, that Israeli Americans, although what happened last week when American-Israeli hostage was killed, was brutally murdered by an Islamist group, Hamas. You have American hostages, you have other hostages who are in Gaza. Understanding how diabolical and how dangerous Hamas is to the world itself and other Islamist organizations should bring European and American allies together to fight that evil. All of this has to do, of course, with a larger issue of immigration policy that's coming in and questions about where immigration is going, doing some background checks about where individuals' past affiliations, and what kind of ideologies they're bringing into those agencies and to those organizations. These are part of the problems, but I think that both Europe and the United States, and I would consider, for example, what's been happening in the Labour Party in the UK, similar, analogous to what you're seeing in the Democratic Party in the United States. I've always argued that looking towards the Labour in the UK should be kind of a mirror to where the Democratic Party can go. And I think you're seeing a lot of those very similar voices coming out and playing out today as well.
There's a presidential election soon. There's a big debate coming up tomorrow. How is that going to affect it?
Foreign policy is a critical issue. It's been already a critical issue on the campaign. Both candidates have been asked about, especially the fact that there are American hostages in Gaza, especially another issue that has come out it has to do with, of course, support for Israel militarily speaking. And I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu was right to point out in his congressional speech, about the fact, we don't agree about a lot of things, but about the mere fact that Israel is fighting America's war on terror. And that is indeed true. What you've seen with the latest targeted killings, namely people like Fuad Shukr, who was responsible for the killing of 241 service Marines, men and women in 1983, shows that justice was taking place here. All of 10/7 and then the war itself it has Iranian footprints all over it, has Iranian blood all over it. Their ideology is anti-American, anti-Western, anti-Semitic. The day that Ismail Haniyeh was taken out during right after the inauguration of the new Iranian president, you have footage of where the Iranian parliament is chanting death to America and death to Israel. If it was anybody needed to be reminded what this ideology stems from, should be reminded. Americans are watching all of this. Americans are hearing all of this. They need to be concerned about the enemies that are coming in from within and from outside American borders. And I think that needs to be reinforced. Getting into electoral politics, as far as not supporting our ally Israel in a time of need, I think is problematic. After 9/11, nobody was questioning, American policy in the region when it comes to bin Laden, when it comes to Al-Qaeda, strapping the Israelis and preventing them from completing the job, which is what you're hearing some voices coming out of the Democratic Party, is problematic. And I think that we have to consider exactly where what's at stake here and where it's all going. Everybody's looking towards the north. Hezbollah is a direct arm of the Islamic Republic of Iran. We've already seen how Iran has attacked Israel back in April, and they will continue to do so through all these proxies as the war progresses. And Israel needs to win this war, and we think we have an obligation to safeguard democratic allies in the region from Europe and from the United States. And I think that's a key moral obligation that we have, knowing what's at stake here.